Good afternoon, flosstube. It's AM Dreamingstitcher here to bring you an update on what I have been up to since my last flosstube video. I did post a video showing how to sort floss because I was getting ready to start a kit I had shown you earlier. And I did try to do a Stitch With Me video for y'all in between that posting and today, but I was having major headset problems. I blame it entirely on Windows 10, Microsoft, because I had no issues with that headset previously, but they're always messing with it. If you look up headset doesn't work Windows 10 online, you will find so many complaints going back years with no one single easy solution to the problem. I spent, I think, more than an hour trying to get it to work before I gave up. So this is a different headset this week. I didn't want to go through that again. And this headset had issues of its own in the past, but it seems to be working today. That's good enough for me. But I do want to say, if I ever seem to disappear completely from flosstube and you don't see me anymore, it will probably be because of technical difficulties. I don't have a phone that I could film with. I don't have a camera that I could film with. All I have is this laptop, and the only way to pick up sound is with a headset. And if Windows 10 is going to make that impossible, I'm not going to be able to post videos. So I hope it doesn't happen, but it could. All right, what I have for you this week is a fully finished object, several works in progress, and some acquisitions. And I'll save those for the end because I know not everyone wants to see them, but I kind of feel obligated at times to let you know what's out there in case I found something really interesting that you weren't aware of before. And so I just like to share it so that you become aware of it, and maybe you like it, maybe you don't, but that's why it's saved for the end, pretty much. Okay, my fully finished object, and that's not required for me to come see you anymore, but I did say in my last video I probably would not post unless I had a finish to show. So I do happen to have a full finish, but you'd seen that finished before. That's not the finished object that entitled me to come to you today. This one is my fully finished object, which you saw when it was only partially stitched. No, it was fully stitched. I take it back. But I may have showed it to you in progress too, and it was a nightmare to stitch. This is a Bucilla, my first stitch kit, that is no longer in production, I don't believe. And I got it online at eBay, and the fabric was ghastly. Ghastly. The worst stuff I have ever stitched on. It was so stiff. And just to give you a little more detail on that, usually when I wash a piece for framing, I wash it and iron it. I try to do the ironing before it's 100% dry, and I kept forgetting on this one. I would get distracted and come back to it, and each time it dried completely, the fabric curled back on itself. I don't know what kind of sizing or garbage they've got in this fabric, but that is not normal. And it happened more than once because I got distracted more than once, and every time I came back to the fully dried fabric after washing it again, it curled back on itself. Just so strange. Anyway, I want to mention something about the framing on this. It's a very inexpensive wooden frame because I'm having trouble finding wooden frames anywhere. I think you've seen this on some of my other pieces. Pardon me if I'm talking too fast. I'll try to slow down. I was looking for a mat for it. Headset issues, and if I don't have the microphone, I'm afraid you won't hear. Anyway, I had several matte choices. One was all red, one was kind of a darker brown, one was, two of them were cream colored with kind of a bronze inner matte, and one with a gold inner matte. One of them was dark green, double matted dark green. I tried all of those, and the trouble with every one was, number one, they came way too close to the stitching. They were all 8x10 mats with a 5x7 opening, but that's really close to the edges of this stitching. So every one of them made this mushroom look crowded in. I didn't like that. So had I used one of those, it would have been the dark green one that was a double mat, because I could take the inner mat out and then it left a little more edge around the mushroom. The red one, especially all tight as it was too much red. The darker brown made it look so 70s. My lord, mushrooms with dark brown, so 70s. The cream colored ones made the white fabric here just look bizarre. So really, if I had gone with any of those, it would have been the dark green. This green, I don't think you can really truly appreciate what a shocking green this is. The light's not good again today, as usual. My apologies. I'm going to have to clean up the room that I originally filmed in that has window light because this just hasn't been working. I'm sorry, but it's going to be a while before I get that room cleaned up enough to be able to use it. But anyway, back to the mat. So I went to my professional framing people, and he didn't have a bin of pre-cut mats like I'm used to seeing. I can spend a good half hour picking through those things trying to find one that really makes me happy. But he came out of the back and asked me what I was trying to frame, and offered me a bright green one. Ran in the back, came out with a bright green mat, and said, how about this? I think this would be really fun. Fun was his word. And I said, well, I had been considering finding one that was one of these shades of green, either the medium or light green. And so he ran and cut it and brought it out and told me how much it was, and I went ahead and paid for it. But I felt a little rushed because this green is not the same shade of green as the stitching. It is really bright. It is really almost neon green. It's shocking green. Very bright, bright spring green. That's okay. Like he said, I guess it makes it fun. So I have a fun piece. That's my Live Simply stitching. Okay, that's my fully finished object. I wish you could see how green that green is. Okay, my finished object is the one that I showed you last time that I said I probably would get a finish on, that would allow me under my new rule to come see you, because I'm not going to film videos if I don't have a finish. And I didn't bring out the packaging with the model, but since she's done, you'll be able to see. I didn't change anything about her. She was a kit. So this is a Bucilla, and I got her on eBay. There's lots of her available. I have several others, 2 other horses, and another piece that I started that I showed you last time, that are all Carousel pieces from Bucilla, from the same era, same vintage. Last time I showed her to you, she needed a lot more back stitching and some lazy daisies and French knots. So for example, I've done all the stitching on the pole, added some back stitching to her ribbons, finished all the green in the edges. The thing that wore me out was the lazy daisies. I'm just not very good at them. So here, for example, if I can get them up near the camera, you can see some lazy daisies there, and I've got a lot more all around the edges. They're not very good. I mean, they're lazy daisies. They are what they are. I've done many before, but I just didn't enjoy them. Anyway, she's finished. Her colors, in retrospect, are very 80s. She was 1987, I think, was her copyright, and those teals and those pinks didn't feel like it when I was stitching her, but looking at them now, it's like she just wrote out of a Carousel on Miami Vice. So 80s. Oh well, that's all right. I like her. Okay, I don't have any other finished objects for you. I'm going to show you something, though, that you haven't seen in a few months, because I'm just supposing it's likely to be my next finish. And that would be my Fateful Night, because it's farther along than any of my other stitching, so if I work on it at all, I need to do all the rigging and the French knots on the hull and these more back stitching at the front and so on. It's missing a lot. It's got all of its cross stitches and half crosses, but it's missing a lot of the additional stitching. However, I do think it's closer to being finished than anything else, so I just feel like the next time I come to you, this will probably, most likely, be my excuse for making a video, because it's the closest to being done. Alright, so what have I been stitching on if not that? Just a handful of pieces. One of them you have seen before, and it's coming along nicely, and that is my, I keep saying it's birds of a feather, but these are actually 2 separate pieces, and I just finally noticed that this bottom one is birds of a feather, and the chart I'm doing on the top they actually call flock together. So I'm doing flock together. And I have added to it a little bit since you last saw it. I'll try to tell you what I've put in. It is, sorry, kind of covered up by the scroll frame because there's a lot more going on over here with the berries and the branches. But that's all up under the frame. What did I add? I added some berries. A couple of berries in here. There was only one, and I've added two more and a branch. I'm trying to get my shadow off of there. And I've added this berry and the bottoms of these berries, and I carried this branch all the way out to the edge, and all of these bits down below it I added, and this is the start of the next bird. So that's what I've been doing lately. I have two other pieces I was working on before that though, and I wanted to get back to that one because I don't want to completely forget all of my old projects just because I have new ones. And why do I have new ones? Well, I had a new rule that I told you about last time, that if I purchased something in order to kind of curb my overindulgence in projects, I was going to have a rule that I needed to start it within a reasonable amount of time after purchase. You may notice I'm describing that rule in the past tense. I've modified my rule a little, but I do have some to show you. So, one that I showed you last time that was a purchase off of eBay was this Monarch Horizons kit called Japanese Koi, koi spelled in an unusual manner. And I have in fact begun stitching that. And I told you that the kit came obviously pre-owned with everything separated out, and that I was suspicious of the fabric and thought it was probably not the original. I'm more convinced than ever of that. This is not good fabric. This is lousy fabric. It reminds me of MCG textiles in the sense that when you put your needle through it, the fabric doesn't spring back and you end up with holes that stay. And I know that because right when I started the first fish, the very first fish, I got interrupted, the thread broke, I came back to it and found myself stitching it upside down accidentally, so I had to pull some stitching out right at the beginning, and it left holes in the piece. You probably can't see them, but there's holes. I've got my thumb behind them. They're gigantic, right in front of his little face, because I started stitching that direction accidentally, and they don't go away. I do not think, this is nothing like the Monarch fabric I had in my last Monarch kit that I stitched, so I don't believe that this is the original fabric. Anyway, we do have the edge of this top fish, a little bit of him, and we have the face and tail, but missing all the rest of the other fish. And they call for 2 strands. You can see that leaves it pretty open. If I were doing this strictly from the chart, I might do 3 strands, but I don't want to run out of colors, so I'll leave be. You can't even really tell where I've been putting white in. There is a lot of white stitched in here. It's not going to show up until the back stitching's on the fish, I'm sure. But I've begun. That was my rule. I have modified the rule. Instead of simply stitching whatever I purchase, I think that I'm restricting it considerably to things that, first of all, I have to have all the materials for. So a kit, yes. A chart, no, because that would lead to more spending. If I buy a chart, I would have to buy all the fabric and floss that goes with the chart. I would end up doing this, which I did because I went to my not-so-local needlework shop and looked at their sale bin and completely forgot that I had a rule about stitching things up and bought 8 charts, 4 of which said that they required both DMC and Anchor. This is all Anchor floss, folks, because I don't have Anchor and I don't have a local source for Anchor. So I went online and bought all this Anchor floss, and it was not cheap to get all this floss because it's the only way that I would even have the option to stitch these charts that I got. Anyway, I decided that it's really pushing it to say every time I get a chart I need to stitch. So it has to have all materials available when I get it. And further, I've decided that it should be something, if I'm going to make myself stitch right away, that I've basically done somebody else out of. By that I mean like this Monarch piece. I never saw it before. I think it's beautiful. I love koi. Um, to me that makes it seem like a rare piece, scarce anyway, and so someone else seeing it might have wanted it, but I got it. It wouldn't be fair of me to stuff that in a drawer somewhere for months or years and nobody else gets to stitch it who would have wanted it. So if I get it, if I do somebody else out of it by purchasing something I know is in short supply or that I actually bid on and outbid others for, then I need to stitch it. That's only fair. So my other piece I did bid on. I don't know if anybody else was interested. I don't know if they would have bought it. But the other one I've been working on was this. Another Bernat Carousel piece. By the way, I was going on and on about how nice the floss was without paying any attention to the fact that it says right down here, it's DMC. It's just DMC floss. The fabric is not quite the same as the fabric on the Carousel horse was, but it's good fabric. So much better than those fish. I know somebody swapped out the fabric on those fish. My lord, it's terrible stuff. I did go ahead. I liked doing the Carousel horse with the floss all just tossed in the box that I was using, but I went ahead and bagged and separated the floss for the lion. And what I have so far is just part of his saddle. I like the colors. They're so bright. They're in large chunks of color. He's stitching up so much faster than the Carousel horse did. There's the saddle. There's the lion. Because the Carousel horse had a lot more going on in it, folks. A lot of garlands of flowers with several shades of pinks and greens all mixed together. Both kits are the kind with hand-drawn charts, which can be a pain to read. And in the case of the Carousel horse, which came out in '87 and this came out in '88, the Carousel horse, all of the top stitching, all of the back stitches and lazy daisies and French knots and everything else were drawn over the top of the cross stitches on the chart. And I feel like I'm talking too fast again. I'll slow down. And they were indicated with things like squiggly lines and dotted lines and rice-shaped lines, and it was just so hard to read with all that scribbled over the other symbols. One reason the lion is stitching up faster and more easily is he does have some of that indicated on his chart, but he has 2 additional charts on the back showing back stitching and ornamental stitches only. That makes it so much easier. My lord, so much easier. So, you notice I'm not showing the Chinese lanterns. The kit I got off of eBay, because those are everywhere. I could not say that is something that's in short supply. I could not say I did anybody out of it. I could say I have way too many projects already that I want to do. So I have I have more than that. I have at least 5 other whips that I didn't show you today, and I need to get those done. I really do. So I'm not gonna start another one unless I bid on it and outdo somebody else. And I did miss out on 2 bids since I saw you last. Missed out on one just today, but that's okay. I've got enough stuff. So what's with all that floss? I'm gonna go ahead and show you my acquisitions. And so if you only wanted to see the stitching, I'll see you next time. But I thought you might be interested in some of what I found. I think I found some really nice stuff. First of all, we'll begin with eBay here. I can't show you this one. I've done this to you before. It's another one of these Carolyn A. Top Scottish designs. I stitched up a drum major. I told you I have a piper I want to do. As you can probably see, this is Country Dancers. And it is a kit. And I think this qualifies as being in limited supply, but I'm not going to do it right off, in spite of the rule I just told you about, because I would do my piper first. I want to do the piper. I've already got the drum major. Then I would do the dancers, and then I'd probably frame them all together. You'll notice the needle is stuck in here. That happened with the lion too. So there are holes from 1988 where the needle was with the lion. You might be able to see those. But at least none of them were rusty like the horse. His needle was rusty, and I have not been able to wash it out. That's what all this garbage at the top of the fabric is. Her needle. And hopefully when I frame her up in madder, and I'll do that to match the lion and the other horses eventually, I will try to cover that up so that the rust doesn't show. Anyway, that would be an excuse to start this sooner, would be to keep that from rusting out. But yes, I did get that from eBay. I also got 2 charts. I really want you guys to know about these. So if you haven't left, hang on for a minute, please. There was an amazing designer. I loved her work. And I can't necessarily say her name right, but I've showed you I want to do some pears, a pear pillow that she designed. Her name was Donna Vermilion Giampa. And I may not be saying it right, but she did pass away not too many years ago. It was a very tragic loss, and her designs are stunning. She designed for years, but it looks like her sister, if I read the seller information correctly, is starting to make some of them available again. So I ordered 2 of her charts, and there are others. I got these from eBay. You'll notice it says the Vermilion Stitchery, and this one is a cat alphabet. I saw online some pictures of the cats without the alphabet. I would have loved to find that, but I didn't, so I'll stick with the alphabet. And also, I'm not a big sampler person, you know that, but the colors on this, which you probably won't be able to see, I just fell in love with. It's a very traditional is not really the word I'm looking for, but in books I have of embroidery, it wasn't cross stitch, but they would have done designs like this in the time period to which these costumes refer, which is 18th century. This is very much the kind of design I would have seen in an 18th century piece, I think, to judge by the books I have. And the colors are gorgeous, and I like it very much. I would not use this verse. The problem with this verse, it says, "This needlework of mine can tell, I in my youth was learned well, and by my elders also taught, not to spend my time for naught." Fine sentiment, but nobody taught me to stitch when I was little. I did not become a stitcher until I was in my 30s, and I was self-taught. Well, I had a book to help, but this would not apply to me remotely. So if I do stitch it, I'm going to have to think of a way to change that verse. And the very kind lady who is now putting her sister's designs out to make them available also threw a couple of freebies into the package, so I'm going to try to show you. One was this little kitty cat, which I probably wouldn't stitch, but it's charming that she thought to throw that in there. And the other, since I made 2 purchases, and this is a black and white that she had provided, is a very very vintage looking American Eagle. Looks like it's straight out of the 19th or early 20th centuries. I can picture doing that. Maybe not the kitty, but that, yes. So those were my eBay purchases recently. And no, I don't have anything with those Donna Vermilion Giampa charts to stitch them up with, so that's not going to happen immediately. But as I said, I went to my not so local needlework store and looked in their sale bin, and I want to show you the treasures I found there. They were all half the normal price, which is a little high because it just is at that shop. But I want to show you what I got. The ones that go with that gorgeous floss are flowers. They are from a company called the Silver Lining. And the rose was the one I was least inclined to get. They had some other flowers too, but the red on that was just... wow, I wish these colors would show up for you today. And they're not, they're all washed out, but that red was so intense. So absolutely beautiful that I just to look at that chart makes me happy. So yeah, that was one I got. I also got a geranium because it was also very pretty. I have other books with botanicals. I like botanicals, and that's a really lovely one. I didn't, as I said, they had a couple of others I didn't buy, but I do like that. But the 2 that I most liked were flowers that I love. One was lilacs. I adore lilacs. And it's got possibly a little more anchor than DMC, but pretty close to equal amounts anchor and DMC in there. So it took both. And it's so pretty. And morning glories. Now I like the ones that grow around our property are bluish purple, which these are not, but I do like morning glories. And so I got those. I guess I could have shown the names. This is called Ruby Morning Glory. The lilacs were called Lavender Lilacs. The geraniums were just called geraniums. And the rose was one of a series of 12. That one was called the Imperial, from a series called A Bed of Roses. Anyway, I think that those are just beautifully rendered. Even if I just looked at the charts, I'd be happy with those. But I did go ahead and get the anchor flosses online so that if I wanted to do those flowers, I could. And yes, I got one more flower, as long as I was online. Too much glare. I love irises. I've showed you photographs of irises that I bought at our local art show. They made a lot of irises, this company did, the Silver Lining. Tons of them out there. But I went ahead and restrained myself and got just one. And the colors for that one. So if you see me stitching some flowers, those could be it. Naughty, naughty me. Yeah. What else is in there? Oh, yeah, there are a couple of other small things in there that were not part of my local LNS. There's this little RTO kit. Wow, flowers, who'd have thunk? And a white willow stitching piece that I was always kind of interested in. I have other white willow stitchings, but every time I see him I think, you didn't get him, did you? You didn't get the lobster, did you? I have the crab. I like the crab better. I like the crab, the octopus. There's some gorgeous ones. But I decided, go ahead, you throw it in the cart, get it over with, get the lobster. So I did. Anyway, back to the sale bin. Okay, these are... I have a couple of kits from these people. The thing I was outbid on today was a kit from this company. But I've always admired these. I have one, a pagoda, that is a full kit, part of this series. These are just the charts. They're packaged as if they were the kits. So I don't know if somebody originally had the kit and they're just selling their charts back. I don't know. But it's the John Clayton International series from Heritage Textiles. And this one's called Spanish Arch. Love it. This one I would make for my sister because when she got engaged to her now husband of 15, 20 years, 20 I think, he was stationed in Belgium and they had visited Bruges. This is Bruges. And I just have to make that for her. She stayed with him there for like 3 months when she got engaged. Not in Bruges itself, but in Belgium. And this one I've always admired. By the way, they had others in their sale bin. I did not buy them all. They had, for example, Niagara. I didn't buy that. But the pyramids, every time I see it in the catalog, I think how nice it looks. And I have another design from Artisy that's this famous international landmark, but I've always liked this one too. Taj Mahal. So when am I ever going to stitch all those? I don't know, but if I had been remembering my rule at the time, I wouldn't have bought them, and then I wouldn't have these beautiful charts, and I wouldn't even have the opportunity to stitch them. So I'm glad I purchased them, and I can definitely picture myself making some of them. I have one more item to show you. This video is much longer than I anticipated, but I think I've shown you everything except my last purchase. And this one, That whole online purchase with the floss and the little kit and the charts was a budget buster already because I'd already hit my credit card limit for this month. I mean, I pay it off, but I try to set a total for myself and not go over that. And I had already hit the total that day, being out of town and shopping with some necessary things for the home. And I was already up at my limit when I went to my LNS. I think I paid cash there. Oh, there was one more thing to show you. I'm going to show you my last budget buster, but I did get some fabric, things like that. But I need to show you, I need to pause just a moment. I need to show you, and I would have been so sad if this had stopped recording while I did that, what I got at one of the stores. I got a kit, which I shouldn't have done, but frames, nice green frame. It's a really odd size. We'll have to see what we can do with. But this was a kit that I had kind of on my wish list online for a while, and I'm sure I didn't need it. I'm sure I didn't, but I had a coupon, so I did buy this. I have a thing for snowmen, but I don't like all snowmen. Very few snowmen really hit the spot with me. Very few. This one I like. He's my kind of snowman. Something about it, and the little animals. You've probably all seen this one before. It's a Dimensions kit. But I did go ahead and spring my coupon on that. Okay, so the budget buster. I have to confess. It's gorgeous. It is sad that I keep coming back to you from time to time and saying that I'm now going to show you the most expensive kit I've ever bought. I've said that before. This beats those out. Not by a whole lot, less than $10 more than my previous most expensive. But expensive, okay. It's an import, and if they had it in one of our stores, I'd be really happy to, spring a coupon on it, but they don't. So when I was online looking for those flosses, I think I just banged the microphone, my apologies. I saw that it was on sale, and I put all those things in the cart and then took them out again, and then went back the next day and put them in again. And I tried to keep from buying, but when this package arrived, I was so happy. At first, when I took everything out of the cart, I thought, you don't need more stitchy stuff. You don't need this floss. You don't need these things. You've got so much in your house already. You don't need more. But then, as I said, the next day, I put them in the cart and bought them. And when it came and I opened it, I was so happy. Those flosses are beautiful. Those flowers, if I get a chance to make them, will be gorgeous. The little kit is charming. It's all good. This was the thing that, I'm not even going to give you numbers, but I'm going to show you how pretty they package it. I don't know how to say this, if it's Lenarte, whatever. They make them so nice. They put them in the tissue paper. You have this gorgeous floss card. So pretty. You're looking at it and saying, AM, that's all like greens and browns and cream colors. What in the world is that going to be? That's an awful lot of one color. Do you really want to stitch that? I do. It was on sale. It was still incredibly expensive, but I fell in love with them every time I saw them in a catalog. Sheep. Take that, sheep lovers. Look at that sheep. Oh, you either love it or you don't. I know it's that way with flosstube. Some things we're in love with, others just nod their heads and smile and go their own way because they don't understand what it is that we see in it. And I'm sure that many of you are that way about this sheep. But look at the eyes she's given you. I love this. Is it going to be fun stitching all of that cream and gray and green? Maybe not. I don't care. She's gorgeous. The only thing I couldn't decide was whether to get her on Aida or even weave. And although I have stitched on linen, I've never actually stitched on even weave yet, and so I thought, let's go ahead and go with the Aida. And same price either way, no difference. It would certainly look different in the background to her, The even weave might have looked prettier when she's done, but oh, gorgeous. Gorgeous. Sorry it was so darn expensive, but gorgeous. Okay, so if I die tomorrow, I will die with more stitching than I could ever do. If I die in 40 years, I will die with more stitching on hand than I could ever do. But I'll see what I can do. I got a late start. I told you I didn't start till my 30s. I'm behind the rest of you, so I need to get to work. And that's why I'm going to stop this video now, and I will be back with you when I have more to show, which, as I indicated, is probably going to be when I get off my rear end and stitch that Titanic piece, but not necessarily. I've got so many other things going. It could be one of them. I could start something small and whip that out. I don't know. Who knows? But I will be back with you again whenever it might happen to be that I have finished stitching something, and I will try to keep to my rule insofar as if I buy something that I know is of limited supply, or that I have definitely, if I've outbid somebody on, I'm going to stitch it. I will probably go back and look at some of my prior purchases because I rarely bid. Bidding is very stressful for me, but I probably have some things I acquired that way, and I should get them out. I should do them. And some of the things that I know there are few of. Because otherwise, as I said, it's very selfish of me to tuck them away and not do them when I took away the opportunity for somebody else to have that item. Maybe not everyone sees it that way, but I think I need to at least stick to that much of my rule. So thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are all stitching and enjoying what you stitch and having a great fall. Seasons don't change much here in the desert Southwest, but we are having a little of what fall there is, and I'm enjoying the change. Up on the mountains I can see there are some leaves that have changed, but only because not simply their elevation, but all the pine trees there were burned out a few years ago, so what comes back initially is those deciduous trees, and so you look at the mountain and it has this huge yellow patch, and your first thought is, whoa, why is our mountain yellow? Because it doesn't happen. But it's fall. Fall is happening, amazingly enough. So I will be back with you whenever it happens to be. And again, thank you so much to my viewers, my subscribers. I hope that you're all finding plenty of good things to stitch and plenty of good stitchers to watch online. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.